Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've ever felt, completely overwhelmed analyzing your golf swing, obsessing over the takeaway or the top,
Hmm.
well, we're giving you permission today to maybe forget all that noise for a bit.
Yeah, let's cut through it.
We're zooming right in on the single, absolute moment of truth.
P7.
P7, the moment of impact. It is, quite simply, the king of the golf swing. All the preparation, the tempo, the
Yeah.
sequencing,
Everything.
it all culminates right there in that nanosecond. If impact is flawed, well, nothing that happened before it really matters.
And nothing after can save it, right?
Exactly. It's done.
And P7 isn't some position you try to hold, like a pose for a camera.
No, it's the exact instant the club face meets the ball. And our sources, they make it really clear that this moment, captured with high-speed video or 3D motion capture,
Hmm.
it reveals everything.
Everything about how efficient your movement actually is.
That's it. And what's really critical here is that this single moment dictates, well, basically the four core variables determine your ball flight.
Okay, what are those? Your club face angle, your swing path, your angle of attack, and crucially, the structural integrity of your body at that moment.
Get those four aligned.
And you've got consistency. You've got a repeatable strike.
So our mission today, it's really a shortcut to efficiency. We're going to deep dive into how the three core golfer types, you've got the upper, the middle, and the lower core players,
Right, yeah.
how they arrive at and pass through P7. Because they don't just move differently, they generate power and approach impact based on three completely distinct, well, philosophies of movement.
That's a great way to put it. Philosophies.
And you really need to know which one fits you.
Absolutely. It can change everything.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the upper core golfer. When we look at the data, these players, they're characterized by, well, a much more vertical swing arc.
Definitely. They look steeper, they feel steeper, and their strike, it's driven by pretty aggressive upper body rotation.
Supported by that powerful lead side extension pushing up.
Exactly. For this core type, P7 is all about compression and descending force. What's fascinating, though, is the geometry needed to support that steepness.
How so?
Well, if you analyze their impact structure, the hands are noticeably ahead of the ball. Way ahead.
Okay, so that creates significant forward shaft lean.
Huge forward shaft lean, yeah. Which, combined with that steep angle of attack, well, it sounds like they're trying to hammer down on the ball, doesn't it?
It really does, like you're actively hitting down.
That's the feeling, precisely. Because the club is descending steeply, they produce that signature compressed strike. We're talking a downward angle of attack, maybe 5 degrees down, sometimes even more.
Even with a driver in some cases. Why?
In some extreme cases, yes. And the club face tends to be square or maybe just slightly open.
Okay. That helps prevent the hook that steepness could cause.
Right. It's a built-in compensator for that path.
And you mentioned the lead arm remaining straight, providing that structure.
Yeah.
Doesn't that put, tremendous pressure on the wrist? How do they stabilize that power?
That's a great question. It really speaks to their structural strength, their ability to maintain that frame. The lead arm provides the width, absolutely.
But the trail arm.
The trail arm has to be managed very carefully. It's extending, yes, but crucially, it must not over-release or flip.
Okay.
The golfer has to keep a little bit of extension, a slight bend in that trail wrist, what people often call retaining lag, right through the strike.
If they dump it early.
They lose all that compression. The steepness becomes ineffective. It becomes a glancing blow.
Okay. Visually then, if I'm watching this player, what did their torso look like? You mentioned this cover style move.
Yeah, that cover style move, it's really the defining visual feature. Their chest is rotating strongly through the strike, but with minimal lateral tilt, minimal side bend towards the target.
So more level shoulders through impact.
Relatively speaking, yes, compared to other types. Because they're delivering the club vertically, their spine angle tends to be more upright. It looks like they're getting right on top of the ball, almost covering it, forcing that compression downwards.
And this must lead directly to the ground interaction. It has to be aggressive vertically to support that upright, steep strike.
Absolutely has to be. Think of it like a vertical jump, but applied rotationally in the swing. The hips are only slightly open compared to other types.
Okay.
But the real key is the weight distribution and the force application. Weight is heavily onto the lead foot early.
And the push off the ground.
That vertical ground reaction force, the push-up off the ground, it actually peaks before impact for them.
Before.
Interesting. Yeah, that early push provides the rigid, tall foundation they need for the upper body to rotate over and deliver that steep club path powerfully.
So P7 for the upper core. Rigid structure, high compression, steep downward strike. It's all built on that vertical dominance.
Exactly. Consistency through control of the descending blow.
Okay. Now, if the upper core aims to hammer down, let's shift to the middle core golfer. This seems like the one seeking perfect fusion, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good description. Fusion, balance.
They arrive at impact in a, really balanced, neutral position, blending those vertical and rotational elements.
The middle core golfer is kind of the benchmark for repeatability. They achieve that ideal impact geometry that, frankly, a lot of instructors try to generalize for everyone.
Even though it only naturally fits this one type.
Precisely. At P7, their hands are just slightly ahead of the ball. We're talking moderate shaft lean, not extreme like the upper core.
Right. This sounds like a maybe an easier position to maintain control from.
Especially under pressure.
It generally is, yes.
Are they sacrificing some peak speed for that consistency, though?
They probably are sacrificing a little bit of maximum rotational speed, yes, but what they gain is massive consistency.
Okay.
The club is delivered right on the plane they established earlier. The angle of attack is shallow to neutral, maybe just a couple degrees down with an iron.
So much less steep?
Much less steep.
Yeah.
Everything is managed. The club face is square. Minimal last-second manipulation needed from the hands. It's very efficient. So if we picture maybe a Dustin Johnson as an archetypal upper core, who might be a middle core player we can visualize?
Ooh, maybe think of someone like a classic Rory McIlroy, or perhaps some of the older legends whose swings just looked effortless and were always on plane. Their body positioning is almost perfectly neutral,
Spine angle.
maintained beautifully. It's neither excessively tilted back nor overly upright like the upper core. Their chest rotates through impact, pointing slightly ahead of the ball, sure, but the rotation is moderated by that maintained spine angle. It's balanced.
And the arms, how do they manage that precise, moderate release without either blocking it or, flipping through?
Connection. That's the key word for them. Both arms stay connected to the torso's rotation. Lead arm stays firm, gives structure. Trail arm extends naturally through the shot.
So no rapid snap, no excessive holding off.
No, none of that. The torso rotation just brings the arms through the hitting zone smoothly and efficiently.
And their ground interaction must be equally balanced, right, between rotation and that vertical push?
That's exactly right. The pelvis is the primary engine here. It leads the movement, clearing the hips open effectively, but not, hyper-aggressively.
Okay.
Weight gets firmly planted on the lead foot. But unlike the upper core player who peaks their vertical force early, the middle core golfer has a smoother, more distributed weight shift and force application.
Which probably makes them more versatile.
Hugely versatile. It allows for efficient energy transfer across all sorts of lies and shot types. They are arguably the most adaptable player type.
The Goldilocks zone of impact, maybe?
You could say that, yeah. P7 for the middle core is balanced, square, and highly, highly repeatable.
Okay. Now, here's where, for me anyway, it gets really interesting.
The lower core.
Let's look at the lower core golfer. This is the rotational powerhouse.
Yeah.
Characterized by, a massive use of ground force, delivering the club from the inside on a significantly shallower path. This geometry, it kind of defines what a lot of amateur golfers are taught, doesn't it?
It really does. When we look at the 3D data for this player type, they are leveraging rotation and sequencing to the absolute extreme. The key distinction, the thing that jumps out immediately, is the positioning of the hands relative to the body at impact.
Yeah, I see in the sources here, the hands are unique. They're positioned behind or maybe even level with the lead thigh at impact.
Correct. Behind or level with the lead thigh.
That feels almost counterintuitive. Everything we're taught about getting hands ahead for compression. How do the sources explain that? How does that hands-back position still result in efficiency?
It's all about the geometry compensating for the sheer amount of rotation. Because the lower core player is rotating their hips so aggressively so early, their hands need to stay back relative to the target line. If their hands got way out ahead like the upper core player, with that much rotation, the path would be severely out to in.
I see. So the hands stay back to shallow the path.
Exactly. It allows them to deliver the club on a very shallow path, still with forward shaft lean, mind you. But the angle of attack is much flatter, often approaching 0 degrees or even slightly up on the ball, especially with longer clubs.
Wow. And that hand position, combined with that shallow inside path, that must really encourage a draw-biased strike.
Absolutely. The club face will typically appear slightly closed relative to their path, which, as you said, is coming from the inside. That's the classic pattern that promotes the draw, or sometimes a power fade, depending on face control, common among these really strong rotational players.
Can you give an example? Who might fit this?
Think of the really dynamic rotational swings, maybe like a Matthew Wolff in his prime, or historically some classic ball strikers known for really working the ball with a strong rotational element.
Gotcha. Okay, let's talk power application. What are the arms and the torso doing here? Because it sounds like a different engine.
It is a different engine, and this is where the speed really gets unleashed. The trail arm, the right arm for a righty, it straightens rapidly, like a whip. It was tightly tucked really close to the body through P6, that position just before impact, and that quick, almost violent extension contributes massive speed. It's like a slingshot releasing.
And the torso. This must be the biggest contrast to the upper core player.
Oh, absolutely. Night and day. They're definitely not covering the ball.
No way.
Spine tilt is pronounced for the lower core player. Significant tilt away from the target. The upper body stays behind the ball much longer to accommodate that shallow path.
They're using side bend, lateral bend.
A lot of it, yes.
Yeah.
Actively using lateral bend to help get the low point of the swing correctly positioned after the ball, despite the shallow approach. And critically, the chest stays closed longer relative to the target.
Close longer.
It only fully opens, rotating through towards the target line just after impact. This is pure delayed rotational power release, letting the body unwind late and fast.
But surely, that extreme spine tilt, the hands being back, there must be a trade-offs. What's the biggest risk they face at P7?
Yeah, there's always a trade-off. The primary risk is inconsistency in the low point of the swing. Because that sequence is so dynamic and relies on significant tilt, if the timing is just slightly off, that deep spine tilt can cause them to bottom out too early. You get thin shots. Or if they overturn and tilt too much, they can push the ball way right or hit blocks.
So the timing window is narrower.
Generally, yes. It's arguably narrower for the lower core player compared to the more stable middle core player. Requires incredible coordination.
And finally, let's bring it back to the ground forces. How does their use of the ground differ from the upper core's early vertical peak?
It's almost the inverse pattern. While the upper core player peaks vertically before impact, the lower core player uses their lower body for that aggressive rotation first. Hips are wide open, weight is driven deeply into the lead leg forcefully, but the vertical ground reaction forces that upward push actually peak at or just after impact for them.
After impact, so it's a delayed push.
It's a delayed vertical push, exactly. It maximizes the transfer of that rotational energy. They're essentially using the ground late to help pull the club through with maximum rotational velocity.
Fascinating. So P7 for the lower core player, highly rotational, shallow path, ground-driven power, built on that aggressive hip clearance and the deep delayed spine tilt.
That sums it up well. 3 very different ways to get the job done.
So what does this all mean for the listener? We've just analyzed 3 distinct yet efficient philosophies for arguably the most important fraction of a second in golf.
Yeah.
You've got the steep and upright approach of the upper core, the balanced and neutral textbook impact of the middle core, and the shallow and rotational power move of the lower core.
And the so what for you, the listener, is absolutely critical because understanding which core type you naturally lean towards, well, that's the key to refining your goals and your practice. Well, think about it. If you're naturally a rotational lower core player, but you're trying to force the upright spine position and the hands way ahead feel of an upper core player,
you're fighting yourself.
You are absolutely fighting your own biomechanical structure. You'll just be adding unnecessary compensations, probably leading to blocks, pulls, maybe hooks. It won't feel powerful or efficient.
And conversely, I suppose, if you're naturally an upper core player trying to achieve the lower core's deep spine tilt and delayed ground force peak.
That's probably why you might be hitting shots heavy, hitting them fat. You're trying to shallow out a naturally steeper delivery system.
So aligning your P7 goal with your natural structure, that's the shortcut.
That's the shortcut. It can elevate performance almost immediately just by working with your body instead of against it.
It really reinforces that overall theme, doesn't it? Regardless of how your backswing looks, could be textbook, could be, pretty messy. P7 reveals everything.
Everything about the efficiency of your movement. Are your hands, your torso, your lower body working together in concert to deliver that club in the most effective way for your specific swing shape? P7 is like the truth serum of the golf swing.
Yeah, you can't hide at impact.
Nope. The ball flight tells the story.
Which leaves us with this provocative thought for you to maybe explore further. If impact truly is king, and P7 is that snapshot that really determines success, how often are we focusing maybe too much on all the preceding moves P1 through P6? The takeaway, the top, the transition, instead of really internalizing the feeling of dynamic balance and the correct body structure at the exact moment the club meets the ball?
It's a great question.
Perhaps the real practice should be just ensuring that structural truth right there at impact and letting the path kind of find itself from there.
That is certainly a deep dive for another time. How much does impact dictate the rest? Fascinating stuff.